Hey guys, Kevin the Comic Doctor coming here from my shop here in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada for another edition of One-on-One. And today we're going to talk a little bit about comic book dry cleaning. Before we get there though, take a moment, won't you? And please hit the subscribe and like buttons below. Share the video when you're done watching it. And you know what? Leave a comment, because by leaving a comment, you can win some free pressing by me and grading by CGC. Details below in the information section. And a big congratulations to Stavros, who won my 300 subscriber draw last Saturday. Good work, Stavros, and good luck to our next lucky winner. Anyways, today, let's talk about dry cleaning, comic book dry cleaning. You know what? There are lots and lots of videos out there that go over this, you know, from beginners all the way up to the pros. I'm going to show you what I use to do comic book dry cleaning. You know, everyone's got their different tools or different methods. Well, these are, I'm not going to go into detail on how I do it, but I'm going to show you the tools that I use to dry clean a comic book. Okay, so first off, let's have a look at this guy right here. You've probably seen these before. I've seen these on different videos. This here is a dry cleaning pad. It says right on it, look, dry cleaning pad, so it must work, right? Well, what this little doohickey is basically a little pad. And inside of this pad, you've got little bits of eraser, clean eraser. And essentially you sprinkle this on the cover of your comic book and you gently rub the face of the comic, and the whole idea is that over, you know, after doing it for a little while, those little bits of eraser will pick up the dirt that's on the surface of the book. And you know what? It does work. It does work. I've seen it work, but do I use it? No, I don't. I don't use this. I've used this. I've had this for about 8 years, and I think I've used it 3 times. And the main reason I don't use it is it makes one heck of a mess. And I just don't use it. So that's I don't use. A lot of people do swear by it. And it does work to a certain degree. I don't like the mess. So what do I use to dry clean? I use, you know, by the same company, mind you, Staedtler makes these. I love the Staedtler Mars plastic erasers. Now these babies here are, you know, what I use pretty much 90% of the time to dry clean the comic books that are submitted to me. These are excellent, high quality erasers. You might find, you know, cheap knockoffs at the dollar store. I don't use those. I just don't. I've had great success with these babies. Now, where can you buy this stuff? And these, I mean, most art stores, by the way, will carry most of the stuff I'm going to show you today. Otherwise, I'm sure you can find on Amazon, or you can find them, you know, look again, local art stores or Michael's perhaps. Although at Michael's, you're paying a pretty penny. I know these guys here, for example, you can buy these at Michael's. I think they're about $3.50 Canadian, but I can also buy them at the local art store. And here in Ontario, our art store is called Curry's in the Toronto area. I picked these up at Curry's for $1.25. So I go there and I buy a box of these babies, and I go through these like crazy because they're excellent. And what I do is I cut them in little bits and pieces, and I can use them like this as well too. But if there's a little area I want to get to, I'll just cut this sucker a little up, and it works really well. Okay, so there's that. And then next, oh yes, sometimes you want a little bit more control because the eraser is, you know, it's a little bit cumbersome sometimes. So if you want more control, you can go pick up one of these little guys, and this is basically a mono zero eraser pen. And these are quite excellent. They're very good for getting into, you know, crevices and small areas. They're very, very good. You can actually get it in a square as well. I like the more, this one here, the more narrow pen-like one. But again, you have the square option as well if you prefer to use that. I just don't find this one works quite as well as this one. So I don't use the square one very often. And basically you hit the end like so, and then it you know, ejects the eraser. Now this one here, actually, look at that. This one needs to be changed. It comes with little refills, little eraser refills, and they come in little packs like this. The red one is for these. Now these guys aren't too cheap. I mean, one of these little erasers I think it's around $12 for one of these. And then the eraser packs, the refills, they come with around 2 refills. These cost, I think, if memory serves, around $5 a pack, but they do last a long time and they're quite handy. Now, you got to be very careful when you're cleaning covers, because as you probably, if you've tried this already, you know that if you touch color, you're going to lose color. So you want to protect the area of the comic that you're not going to clean with an eraser. So one of these little shields oftentimes works very well. And as you can see, the shield has different, like, you know, contours that you can use to fit the area in which you are cleaning, and then essentially you place it over top of the area you want, and you can use your little pen here, or you can even use your Staedtler eraser and get in there and clean. This is fantastic. Now, when you're using erasers on comic books, invariably you're going to leave residue. You're going to leave like a rubber residue on the comic book, and that's no good. All right, if you send a comic to get graded and it has residue on there, your grade's gonna go down. So you want to make sure that once you're done dry cleaning your area, the whole surface of the cover is beautifully uniform. There are no like bits of rubber stuck to it. Like, believe it or not, it does happen. So what I love to use, and this is my favorite tool of the batch, and it's called the Chem Sponge. And these Chem Sponges are awesome. You will not find these at an art store. You may find them at art restoration websites in the US. But I found a place in Canada called Hazmasters, where you can buy these for like half the price of the art restoration websites. And if you're in the US and you want to buy one of these, you can go to like hazard restoration websites. Hazmasters basically sells equipment and tools to clean up after disasters. Whether you had a flood or a fire in your home, God forbid. Some of the tools, all the tools you'll need to clean that up can be found at Hazmasters. And this Chem Sponge is one of those tools. Basically, what this does is, if you've got say you had a fire and your wall is covered in soot, you can actually take this and drag it along the wall, and it will pick up. It'll almost like a magnet. It'll pick up all the dirt. Let me show you. This is a clean Chem Sponge, and this is a dirty Chem Sponge. This is one that has been used to clean some comics, and this one has not been opened yet. All right, so they get filthy really quickly. But what's nice about these is now this is all filthy, right? But I can actually cut this and I'll have fresh, clean Chem Sponge within this. So you can keep using, you can basically downsize, keep cutting it and exposing fresh areas to use over and over and over again, because they do go a long, long way. But these are the bum diggity, man. These are like one of my favorite tools. I've used this since the get-go, and I couldn't do what I do without these. These are excellent for removing that rubber residue I was talking about. Okay, these can also, if you know what you're doing, be used to get rid of erasure marks. Have you heard that term before? Erasure marks? Well, if you've had a comic graded at CGC, sometimes you'll lose points and your grade will go down if you have erasure marks, and that is caused by people erasing a comic, dirt on a comic book, and either pressing too hard or leaving a rubber residue that's not easy to remove, and it's like a streak. It's like a dull streak. If you've got a shiny cover and you then see there's a dull streak, that's an erasure mark. You can buff the erasure marks off usually with Chem Sponges. If the erasure mark is severe, sometimes you can minimize it. Sometimes you can get rid of it, but you really have to know what you're doing to be able to do that. Anyways, Chem Sponge, excellent. Next, the electronic eraser. 2 AAA batteries. You've got your eraser right here. It goes inside a little holster here, like so, and the holster goes inside the eraser. And there you go. This is really awesome too. I use this quite often. I use this usually along spines, gently around staples, square bound books, along the edge of the square bound book. This gets all the dirt out nice and easy, but this is notorious also for leaving rubber residue. So you have to follow up the usage of this with a Chem Sponge. Oh, you'll notice the Chem Sponge here I have sealed up. Well, if you've received comics from me, you'll know that I shrink wrap all the comics when I send them back to you. I shrink wrap my Chem Sponges too, because if you don't, they'll dry out. And then once they dry out, they're absolutely useless. So yeah, this one here is probably, this is actually my last one. I had about 10 of these babies, and I shrink wrapped every single one. This is probably about 2 years old, and it's still nice and spongy. And it's cool to the touch, which means it's still good. So yes, electronic eraser. What else can I show you? Yes, the brush. You need a good drafting brush, a dust brush, to wipe all the debris off the comic when you're done gently. This is very, very soft. This will not scratch your book. Some of these can be kind of hard, like the bristles can be kind of rough. If you find them that way, be very careful, because you can actually scratch your comic book, especially those really high gloss comic books. So you want a very fluffy, soft brush. You also want to be very careful, as you can see, watch this. Yeah, look at that. You see that? I'll put it down here so you can, that little hair there. These things are notorious for losing their hairs very easily. They're not the most, these are not very expensive. So the bristles are just stuffed in there, and they're not, they're not meant necessarily for comic book, cleaning, but just be cautious. Make sure none of these are hanging around your comic book before you put it in the press. Otherwise, you'll be sending your comics to me to get that imperfection out that this little hair could cause. It can wreak disaster on a comic book, okay? Is that it? I think that might be it. Yeah, there you go. Those are the tools that I use. Again, to review, cleaning pad. I don't use it, but it does work. I've heard good things, so try it out. Maybe you'll like it. The Stedler eraser, gotta have one of those. My electric eraser as well, with refills. And this is made by Derwent. Again, it's very important to find one that has good quality erasers. You don't want some cheap, junky eraser and there's lots of different versions of this out there. Make sure you get one pay a little bit more and get a good quality eraser so you don't damage your comics. And then, of course, I've got my mono pens right here. These are Japanese made. I'll put links to these guys as well, so you can find them if you want to. And then your shield, your brush, and your Chem sponge. Now, one word of warning before I say goodbye. Every single thing I showed you here can cause damage to your comic books. They're going to help your comic books, but they can also hurt your comic books. So please, make sure you practice on a book that is not valuable, perhaps an old ratty book that you have lying around from when you were a kid. Practice on those, because even this eraser can cause damage to a comic book if you're not using it correctly. Okay, so please, again, I have no problem showing you. I love to share this stuff with you, but just a word of warning that if not used carefully, everything I showed you could damage and cause tears, erasure marks, what have you, if they're not used carefully. If you have any further questions about comic book dry cleaning, of course, feel free. Send me an email at info@thecomicdoctor.com, or if you want, you can just ask in the comment section below. I'll try to do my best to answer all the questions as they come in. Thanks again, my friends, and until next time, keep reading them comic books, and hope to see you again. Bye now.